Good. So yes, just lying down, however's most comfortable. Might be quite nice to lie down with the knees bent to start with and the feet standing on the floor. And bringing your hands onto your belly. Just letting yourself settle, maybe a couple of big sighing breaths to let the weight of your body settle onto the ground. And feeling the movement of your breath in your body. And one of the other things we're going to explore today is a little bit about, how it is to move with the breath, and how it is to stay somewhere and breathe. So we're starting off with just this sort of being somewhere and feeling the breath, and in a quiet place. So maybe just another couple of cycles of breath, feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. And then from here, let's fold the right knee into the chest. So the right knee into the chest and lengthen the left leg out on the floor. So hold around your right knee with both hands to start with, or around the back of your thigh. And just have a couple of breaths here. So see how it feels to be opening out through the front of the left leg. Good. And folding in through the front of the right hip joint. And then what I'd like you to do to start with is carry on holding onto your knee with your left hand, but bring your right arm onto the floor, somewhere sort of beside your head, or out to the side. You need your arm to, so maybe a bit higher up, Mel, with that arm. So you want your arm next to your, sort of near your head, if possible, but it needs to rest on the floor. So it's good to just start to be aware of where can you take your arm that it can rest on the floor. How close to your head is that? And then you're feeling yourself in this diagonal length. So you could, if you wanted to, stretch into your heel. And the heel of the long leg. So you're just trying to feel your length from your left heel through to your right hand. So you might want to stretch into the heel and then just let the foot relax. And then have another breath or two in this sort of diagonal length position. And then from here, you're going to swap your arms over. So bring your right hand to hold onto your knee and bring the left arm on the floor now beside your head. And again, take a moment to settle that arm down. Yeah, so if it's right by your head, you could just bring it to a place where it can really rest down on the floor. It doesn't need to be right by the head, but somewhere in that sort of region. And then have a couple of breaths just with the right knee folded into your chest. And then what I'd like you to do is bring your hand around the back of your right thigh. So you're sort of putting your hand in that fold behind the knee. Good. And not your left hand, Mel, your right hand. That's it. Your left hand arm just stays on the floor. And then from here, what does it feel like? Just keeping your right hand around the back of your thigh. It could even be your wrist or your arm rather than just the hand. What's it like to start to take that lower leg up away from your body a little bit more? So you're taking your foot towards the ceiling, but trying to keep your thigh close to your chest. Yes, exactly. You can do that a couple of times. So notice what happens. So if your thigh is coming away from your chest as you're taking your leg up, see whether you can keep your thigh closer to your chest, but not take your leg so far. Good. So this one I always think feels a little bit like you're doing a lunge on your back. Awesome. Okay. And then just from there, see if you were going to catch onto your leg, your ankle or your foot, where could you comfortably catch? So yeah, this is again with your right hand. Where could you comfortably catch your right hand onto your foot? Good, that's nice, that's nice. I haven't muted people for the moment because there's not so many of us. So do let me know if it gets too noisy. I thought it might be helpful for you to be able to ask things. Good, that's nice. So you can again keep sort of moving in and out of that movement. But then the other thing you can try is keeping heavy through your left side is when you've caught your foot, then letting that leg come out to the side more. And again, your knee could be quite bent. That's it. So what's it like to come out with the leg to the side? What's it like to come back to the center? That's nice. Good. Good. And you can come with the leg to the side with the knee bent or with the leg straight or whatever you like. That's nice. Good. Good. Very nice. But notice what's happening through the left side of the body. And if you're starting to uproot quite a lot, then you're maybe doing more than you need to. Good. Very nice. And then from here, whenever you've had enough, just lengthen that right leg out on the floor and maybe let both arms come back down by your sides. So lie long on the floor for a moment. I think I will mute us now because it's getting a little bit clunky. So, but do feel that you can unmute yourselves at any point. Okay, have a breath, maybe another cycle of breath, just lying long on the ground. You could, if you like, stretch your heels away from you for a moment and then let the legs go. And then that's it. Let a breath come in. And as the breath leaves you, fold your left knee into your chest. And to start with, hold around that knee with both hands. And just have a couple, 2 or 3 cycles of breath of this folding in. Folding in the front of the left hip joint, feeling open through the front of the right hip joint. And then first of all, we'll do that sort of diagonal lengthening. So keep the right hand on your left knee. God, this is really challenging my lefts and rights. And bring your left arm back down by the side of your head. So that's where that arm was. So left arm down by the side of the head. Good. And have a couple of breaths there. So we're feeling this diagonal length from the left hand all the way through to the right heel. And again, you could stretch your right heel away from you if you wanted to. Just a feeling of how is it to let a breath come in, let a breath leave you in this position. Good. And then from here, you're going to swap your arms over. So first of all, bring your left arm around the back of your left thigh. That's it, good. And your right arm is going to come and settle on the floor by the side of your head. And again, it might be quite different in this arm, in this shoulder. So if this arm's a bit stiffer, it might need to be further away from your head, out to the side. Good. And then, yes, exactly. That first movement is if you're holding around the back of your left thigh, you can then start bringing your left foot up towards the ceiling, keeping your thigh close to your chest. That's it, Sharon. That's nice. So keeping that feeling that the thigh is really resting towards your chest. How is it to bring the foot towards the ceiling? That's it. That's very nice. So sort of not using your hand to start with. And then you can start to see, well, where could I catch onto that leg or that foot that would be comfortable? And that would mean I could use my arm to help me bring my foot up. This is the left arm. So the right arm is just still heavy on the floor. You're long through the right side of your body. And then, yes, if you want, then you can explore then taking the leg out to the side a bit. And that's, again, entirely up to you how bent or how straight your knee is. When I was doing this, I was doing it with quite a bent knee. Yeah. And you can make it, all the things we're going to do today, well, not all of them, but quite a few of them are quite exploratory. And yeah, we're not really trying to do anything particularly, I'd say, precise. Yeah, so exploratory, what feels comfortable in your body, letting the leg travel out to the side a bit, but keeping heavy and planted through the right side of your body. That's nice. Good. And then whenever you've had enough, again, you can lengthen that leg out on the floor. Yes, and that's it. Again, perhaps bring both arms down by your sides for a moment. That's it, very nice and long. And then we are going to do that, Francis. We are going to take, when you've lengthened both legs out on the floor, then bring both arms up by the side of your head and interlink your fingers. I think we did this one last week. So you interlink your fingers on the floor over your head, and then you turn your palms away from you. And you stretch into your hands. I don't often say stretch. Stretch into your hands, stretch into your heels. So you're feeling really long, but obviously without sort of pulling your shoulders or doing anything uncomfortable. Good. And then release that. fold your both knees into your chest and hold around your knees. So you're now gathered into a little ball. Good. And you can do a bit of rocking from side to side. So knees folded in, that's lovely. Just whatever you want to do when you're in that little, yeah, folded in place. And one thing that you are going to, well, you might like to do is take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. Why not? Yes. Yes, that's nice, Siobhan. You're catching both feet, and yeah, absolutely, that's another option. So that's it, good. A little bit of a shake out. And then just before, we're going to be coming in a moment, I'm just thinking which side. So we're going to come and lie on the left side, but just give yourself a couple of quiet breaths on your back, maybe first of all. And so remember, we're going to come and lie on our left side, but we're going to be very long. So the bottom arm, so it is a version of Anantasana, where the bottom arm is long and your head is resting down on your arm. So I found this quite challenging, actually, to keep my head resting down, maybe because it's not how I normally do it. So if this is how you normally do this side balance, it might not be so challenging. So you're on your side, your bottom arm is long, your head is resting on your arm. And to start with, have your top hand on the floor in front of you. And as we often do, you could do a little bit of rocking forwards and back just to help yourself settle here. And so how is it? And I suppose the thing to really notice here is the head. Can the head stay settled on the bottom arm? So we want to start with it settled. And then from here, we're going to be immediately folding the knee in. This is where you might feel a bit wobbly, towards your armpit. So we're not going through tree pose like we often do. So you're trying to really gather the knee up towards your shoulder. And see if you can settle here. So you're on your side, you're gathering your knee up towards your shoulder. And then from here, if you wanted to lengthen that top leg up, of course you could do so. Again, like we did on our backs, catching your shin, your ankle, your big toe, lengthening this top leg up. Keep noticing what's happening to your head. Are you able to settle down? Let the top leg grow up. Good. So we've got this length through our bottom side, and the top side is, we've got this connection between the hand and the foot. Okay, just you can, and yes, you can move in and out of this. We can have another breath or so. And then from here, we will roll onto our belly and just have a couple of breaths on our belly before we do the other side. So roll onto your belly. Rest however's comfortable. I like to have one hand on top of the other and the side of my head resting on my hands, or the side of the head resting on the floor. Just on your belly, let your breath come in, let your breath leave you. So in the second side of this side balance, I'm going to come and watch you. So in your own time, I don't have to see you though, Siobhan, don't worry. So in your own time, you're going, Rosie, roll onto side 2. So lengthen yourself out on your second side with this bottom arm being long. So you're leaning your head on your bottom arm and your bottom leg long, obviously, as well. We got your hand under the sofa there, Marie. So good. So and yet have the top hand on the floor in front of you. So find your length from your fingers all the way through to your heel. You might do a little bit of rocking forwards and back. Good. And then it's how can you settle? So for me, I found one side was much easier to settle on than the other. And then from here, can you gather that top knee up towards your armpit, or towards your shoulder, your top shoulder, top armpit? Good. So you've gathered up through the top side of the body. Have a couple of breaths there. Can you roll that top knee back a little bit, Marie? It's probably challenging for your hips, isn't it? Oh, that's it. Wonderful. Good. And then catching your ankle, your shin, your big toe. Can you lengthen that leg up? The knee can stay very bent if you like. Good. That's very nice. Lovely. Good. How is it to settle then? How is the head resting on your arm? How is the side of your body resting on the floor? You may just, as you're there, you may not want to move in and out of it. You may just want to stay there. Let the breath come in. Let the breath leave you. And of course, you know, I felt quite wobbly in this. You're all doing amazingly, balancing very serenely, make you fall out. And then in your own time, just unwinding. And once again, let yourself roll onto your belly for a few quiet breaths. Good. So see how it feels to be on your belly, feeling the movement of your breath in your body. From your belly, and I'm going to leave this very much to you, from your belly, you're going to be folding into child pose. So if you're not so happy on your belly, Mel, I'm looking at you, I don't know why, you can always wiggle your pelvis on your belly. If you're not so happy on your belly, child pose would be nicer, then fold into child pose. So it's good to visit these things. And when you come into child pose, again, if child pose isn't so happy, then also you could be in kneeling for a moment. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then from child pose, we're going to be coming onto hands and knees. And we're going to be doing some cat movement with some cats, but I've got a different, slightly different focus for us today. So maybe first of all, we'll do cat how we normally do. So I'd just like you to focus on the movements of cat. So coming onto hands and knees, starting to round and dip your spine and seeing how that feels. Lovely. And then what I would like you to do is start to think about moving with your breath. So it doesn't matter how you're moving with your breath. So when you exhale, you might round your back to the ceiling, and then breathing in, you might dip your spine down to the floor, or it might be the opposite. But think about now coordinating the movement with the breath. So as you move, you're either breathing in or breathing out, and see how that feels. So it might possibly slow things down a little bit. And there's not a right or wrong way to be breathing here. So if possible, it's quite nice to see what happens, what arises in your body. So as you exhale, what does your body want to do? Does one movement feel more natural with the in-breath or the out-breath? So you can experiment a little bit as well. So when your spine dips down to the floor, do you feel that you want to breathe in or out? When you round your back to the ceiling, do you feel you want to breathe in or out? And then the final little experiment is to stay in each half of cat. So stay maybe with your spine dipping down and receive a cycle of breath. So let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then rounding your back to the ceiling and staying there and receiving your breath. So with your back rounded and your head hanging, feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. So you just, it's slowed down even more. And do that a couple more times. So dipping your spine again, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. So how does it feel to be in these cat movements and breathing? And again, you can round your back to the ceiling. You can feel the breath come in. You can feel the breath leave you. Good. And then perhaps one last rounded up cat, and then rock your hips back over your heels into child pose once more. Or in kneeling if you prefer. Just taking the weight off your hands for a moment, either in child or in kneeling. And so again, in these sort of quieter places, we can feel the breath come in, we can feel the breath leave us. But it's slightly different than breathing when we're actually in perhaps more of a movement or a posture. We're going to come back onto hands and knees, and we're going to do a bit of tail wagging now. And we're going to use that tail wagging also to go into child pose to start with, and we'll probably go a bit further as well. So back on hands and knees, see how it feels to start to do a little bit of wagging your tail, moving your pelvis to the right and to the left. And it's very much up to you. You can stay on hands and knees, or you can use that tail wagging movement to rock yourself back into child pose and rock yourself up onto hands and knees. So maybe do that 2 or 3 times. It can be quite nice in this one to have us be in a slightly longer hands and knees position. So perhaps you feel you've got further to travel back as you're tail wagging back into child pose. And in a moment, we're going to start to see how does it feel to be moving forwards towards face up dog, but we're going to be reasonably tentative about this. So at this point, make sure you have got a longer hands and knees position. So it's up to you. You could just be rocking forwards towards face up dog, or you could be doing these tail wagging movements forwards. And then keep coming back to wagging your tail back into child pose. You can come forwards, you can be doing that tail wagging all the way towards face up dog, or just rocking yourself forwards, and again see how it feels. This is quite early on, might not feel amazing just yet. In a moment, we're going to come into a lunge, and that will then come back to our face up dog. So when you're ready, you can bring one foot forwards between your hands. Good. So come and have a little time in lunge on each side, and then we'll come back to face up dog again and just see if it feels a little bit easier when because what we're doing is just trying to release a bit of this tightness through the front of the hip joints, which helps us in face up dog, but it certainly helps me. So have a few breaths with one foot stepped forwards, and then we'll do the same with the other foot stepped forwards. Might be that you want to come into dog pose to change sides in your lunge, as we haven't come into dog pose yet. So you could plant your hands down, step that front foot back. See how it feels to come into dog pose. So dog pose, if we think about these differences between moving with our breath and breathing in a posture, we could do all of these in dog pose. So we could be moving by bending one knee and bending the other. Let's maybe just think about that for now, bending both knees. Because then we're going to step the other foot forwards into lunge. So when we come back into dog, we'll think a little bit more about those other possibilities. So coming into lunge on side 2, enjoying as much as you can, enjoying your lunge, enjoying that feeling of opening through the back leg, thigh, and hip joint and groin and all those tight places. And then from here, we'll come back to a little bit more of our side bending forwards into face up dog and back into child, and see how they feel. So from that side of lunge, you can come back onto hands and knees. And again, it might be nice, so make sure again it's a longer hands and knees. It might be nice to start with rocking back towards child. And then How does it feel now to be rocking forwards into your face up dog? So I'm going to come and have a look at you. And remember, there are all these other ways you can, things you can add in if you feel your face up dog needs it. Very nice, lovely. That's great. Wonderful. Really lovely. Good. Very nice. Let those shoulders really come down away from the ear. Yes, very nice, Siobhan. Good. Lovely. Okay, if you wanted to come into another dog pose, or we're going to do dog and child, so just, yeah, lovely, very nice, Rosie. So in this dog pose, so the last dog pose we did, we were just thinking about maybe moving to release tension. So in this dog, you could perhaps think about how you coordinate that movement with breathing. So if you're bending one knee and then the other knee, can you maybe do that with your breath? So can we slow down a little bit and think about moving with our breath? It doesn't matter how we're moving with our breath, but this feeling that we're bringing the two together. Good. And obviously from child pose, whenever you want to fold down into, some dogs, sorry, fold down into child or kneeling for a couple of quiet breaths. So we're going to, and then, we're going to come back and do a few more experimental things. Just a little bit of, feeling your breath in a sort of quiet place of child pose or kneeling. Feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving you. And then I'm going to show you what we're going to do. So just come and sit comfortably. So I was thinking about these diagonal movements of fox. And I thought, well, we normally always just take our arm and leg straight. What if we were to bend our arm and our leg? Yeah, so you could do a bit of, what could you do with your arm and your leg that's not just straight? What about, could you touch your foot behind you? Yeah, so that's just a little interesting experiment. And then you could lengthen out. So bending the arm and leg, touching the foot behind you in fox pose. So let's have a little look at that. So remember, in fox pose, we are doing opposites. We're doing opposites to start with, at least. Yeah, give a giveaway. But yes, what could you do when you take your opposite arm and leg off the floor? What could you do? What are these possibilities? Yeah, and I'm quite interested. It's quite interesting trying to touch your foot behind you because you can't see it, can you? And you may or may not like that. Yes. And when you're moving around, is it easy? Yes, I'm wondering whether it's easier or harder to be steady. Very nice. Good. Lovely. Yes, and don't forget about lengthening the arm and leg. That is a very nice thing to do here. Good. Good. And obviously do these little experiments on both sides. So I suppose if we think about being steady to our best ability through the hand and through the knee, and then we have this movement in the raised arm and leg. Okay, so interesting. It looks reasonably comfortable for everyone to catch their foot. Not so comfy on that side, Mel. Yeah, no. You touch you, yes. So good. Yes, that's it, Sharon. If you've done those little experiments, yes, do give your hands a shake out. And then you might want to just give yourself a bit of a lengthen out in dog pose. But yeah, I mean, the foot thing is interesting. I've never when I was doing these experiments yesterday, I mean, I've seen this one taught before and always been slightly anxious about it. And then I thought, well, what's it like? If you do it experimentally, then yeah, we can not hurt ourselves. Have a little lengthen out in dog, because we've got another experiment. We've got another little experiment in a moment. So have a bit of a lengthen out in dog. And in this dog, maybe just focusing in on the breathing. And how is it to be in dog and focusing on your breath? The breath flowing in, the breath flowing out. And using the breath to help you settle into the pose, release tension. Maybe feel even as you breathe in that feeling of perhaps, what do I say, stretching, widening, lengthening. So noticing what you feel with the in-breath and the out-breath. From dog pose, you can come back down. You sit in kneeling, or sit comfortably for a moment. So I'll show you. So this little experiment, we have done this one sometimes, which is where we see how it is to balance. Oh, very good at it. Balance on the same arm, same hand and knee. Yeah. So where could we go to? Oh, yeah, arms can be bent. Yeah. So what is it like to balance on the same hand and knee? How much do we need to change the orientation of the body? Yeah, so how much do we need to balance on the same hand and knee? How much do we need to turn the pelvis forwards? That's what's quite interesting in this one. Yeah, is it possible for you? Maybe you have to turn the pelvis forwards to find your balance to start with, but then can you then sort of turn your pelvis and your belly down towards the floor more and still balance? Maybe, maybe not. That's nice. That's nice. Good. Yes, there seems to be something, doesn't there, about turning the pelvis to start with, to be able to then take your hand off the floor. Yes, that's nice. Good. Very nice. Obviously trying these little experiments on both sides. So yes, now we're doing the same hand and leg coming up. And just from watching you, I was just thinking, I was quite interested in actually, yes, is that what needs to happen first? I was just thinking, does the leg need to come up first? But actually it doesn't need to. It could be the arm that comes up first and then the leg. And then, yes, when we're coming back, do we have that moment of the body orientating itself more towards the ground? Very lovely. So when you come into this one, and if you take your arm up, you almost come into this sort of like a mini half moon pose, don't you? If you lengthen out that top leg, it's probably quite a lot easier to balance here. Then in half moon. Good. And then in once more from there. You've done both sides. If you're still playing around, that's fine. It looks very lovely. You can give your hands a shake out. Good, and we'll be coming through dog pose up into standing when you're ready. Very nice, good. So in this dog pose, I just come into dog and whatever you want to focus on, whether it's the movement, whether it's moving with your breath, whether it's feeling the movement of your breath in the posture. So all these things are valid. whatever we're doing, maybe our intention is to be releasing tension, to be softening, to be undoing, and to allow the breath to move fully and freely through us. From dog pose, you're going to be walking your hands in towards your feet, coming into a forward bend, letting a breath come in, rolling up into standing, or walking your hands up the fronts of your legs if your lower back needs a bit of support. But no, I think I am going to turn this light off because I just think it's a bit distracting. It's behind the back of my head. And I was just looking at all you with your beautiful light in your spaces. I was just thinking about, could I have myself positioned in a different place? I might try. It's very exciting for me. So are we in standing? Lovely. Let's just do this one first of all. That we often do, swinging our arms. Just, yeah, feeling the whole body in movement. Let the hands slap onto the body. Noticing how the shoulders feel. And then eventually we will settle down in standing. So letting the arms go, having a look at the feet, settling the feet down hip width apart and parallel on the floor. And maybe just have a moment of closing your eyes, feeling your feet. As we exhale, can we let the shoulders drop? Big exhale, can we let the arms hang? Can we let the hands hang off the ends of the arms? Maybe a little bit of swaying from side to side, feeling your weight rocking over your left leg, feeling your weight rocking over your right leg. Swaying from side to side. And then settling in the centre. And just for a moment in standing, can you feel your breath come in? Can you feel your breath leave you? And we're going to come into some of our side lengthening movements now with this same focus we've had in child pose and in dog. So first of all, we're going to come up into this one, which we do a lot, where we're just focusing on the movement. So of reaching. And how does this feel in the body? How does it feel through the sides of the body? And it's up to you how slowly or quickly you do this. So I am shifting my weight from side to side, but we are all different temperamentally, and some of us maybe need to go faster. Some of us maybe think we need to go faster and need to slow down. Some of us maybe need to go slower, or maybe think we need to go slowly and actually could do with speeding up a bit. And that may change from day to day. So a couple more times reaching up. And then from here, we're going to sweep down into a forward bend. Let the head go, let the arms go, bend your knees as much as you like. So in your forward bend, we've got these two sensations of what's happening in the back of the legs, what's happening in the lower back. Maybe also, how does the neck feel? Can we really let the head go? And the arms, the many sensations. And let the breath come in as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll back up into standing. Now, I wanted us to try the side lengthening movements, focusing on moving with the breath. So I think we'll keep our feet hip width apart, and I want you to see what's it like to reach up as you exhale. So reach up into one arm as you exhale. Or does it feel more natural to reach up as you breathe in? So how does it feel? You can try that a couple of times on one side, exhaling or inhaling, which feels more natural. So as I said to you, reach up as you exhale. I actually felt that I wanted to breathe in, but it doesn't mean that one is right. Try the other side. So reaching up, and what's it like to breathe in? What's it like to breathe out? Keep the other arm heavy and floppy. And then again, sweep back down into your forward bend. Let your head go, let your arms go. Be heavy and floppy. We'll have one more little experiment in our standing side lengthening movement. Yes, and some of you I can see are doing that weeping willow movement in your forward bend, which itself is a sort of side lengthening movement, helped by gravity, which is what makes it so lovely. And then you can sink into your heels, you can roll up into standing. Now let's see what it's like if we have our feet a bit wider apart for these side lengthening movements. Good. Got feet a bit wider now. Let's exhale, take the arm up. Let this arm hang. And let's see how it feels to stay here for a couple of breaths. Receiving your in-breath, letting your out-breath leave you. Receiving an inhalation, letting the out-breath leave you. Coming back to the center, releasing your arm. And then coming on to the other side. So I took my arm up with an out-breath, you don't have to. I was also shifting my pelvis over this way. And then have a couple of cycles of breath in this side lengthening movement. So receiving an in-breath, letting an out-breath leave you. I find these quite hard myself to stay here and breathe. So receiving an in-breath, letting an out-breath leave you. Coming back to the center. And now just think what we'd like to do. So we'll do a little bit more here. You could be moving in and out of this, or you could be staying and breathing. So I'm going to give that choice to you now. So what's more helpful for you right now today? Is it better to be moving in and out of this, focusing on the movement? Or is it helpful to stay here and feel the breath and see if you can let your body soften around the breathing? And the two, of course, are not mutually exclusive. It's just a slightly change with our focus. And whenever you feel, because sometimes these can feel challenging on the lower back. Now I'm thinking about particularly, but for any of us. So whenever you feel the need, it's very nice to go forwards with our feet this wide apart. Sinking the heels into the floor. If we feel that we want to hold our elbows in this, that's always an option. So if the hands coming onto the floor is distracting, then you can be really sinking into your heels, holding your elbows. If you feel that you would like your fingertips on the floor and you'd like to be shifting your weight from side to side by bending one knee, bending the other knee, that's also an option. Letting your head go, letting your arms go. Good. Exhaling. And yes, in your own time, you can sink into your heels, you can come up into standing. Let's shake out. Is everyone okay for the moment? Are we all right? Yes, good. So we're going to think about a few balancing movements now. So let's just do something very, very simple so we can see how it is to balance. And actually our starting point for balancing is obviously standing. And let's just come back to a bit of this swaying. So this swaying from side to side in the standing is the beginning of a standing balance. So this feeling of shifting our weight over one leg and foot. Trying to settle our weight over a single leg. And so as you do this, just have a sense of which leg feels more ready to take your weight. And what we're going to do very, very simply is to bring our weight onto one foot. We come up onto the ball of the other foot, and then that foot we're not standing on is going to come stand on the other foot. And then if our arms feel a bit like they're in the way, we could bring our hands to our breastbone. So it's sort of interesting. We come to a very quiet place, but maybe it's so quiet. We always try taking the arms up here. If we need a bit more of a focus. Can we take the arms up, but keep quiet through the body? Not coming into those stretching movements. We're just trying to be quiet. It's about if we bring the hands back to the breastbone. How is it to still be standing on that foot? Good. Very nice. Lovely. Come down. Have a little shake out. So we feel that real difference now between the leg we stood on and the leg we didn't stand on. So settle both feet back into standing. Maybe for a moment, close your eyes, feel both feet on the floor. And then as you open your eyes, start to shift your weight onto the other foot. So we can come up onto the ball of the foot we just stood on. So that foot we just stood on becomes lighter and lighter on the floor as the other leg starts to take our weight. We can bring that foot to stand on the other foot. We can bring our hands to our breastbone. And just try to feel the rest of our body stays in Tadasana as much as possible. Taking the arms up. If we take the arms up, how does that affect the rest of our body? Can it stay quiet? Can our shoulders stay relaxed? Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Gather the hands back to the breastbone. Good. And the shoulders be really soft. We drop those shoulders without falling over. Good. Good. Lovely. Have a little shake out. So we're going to do, I'm just going to show you, because this is a slightly different version of a balance that I've been teaching quite a lot. So we're going to do this one, where we use this, I suppose this side lengthening movement to take us into a balance. Normally we just catch the top of our foot. Today, I'd like you to bring your knee towards you, a bit like we're doing on our backs, out to the side, and then to here, okay? And it's up to you how long you stay in any of those. You might be a bit longer than me. So whichever foot you stood on first, let that arm come up towards the ceiling. So with this shift of weight over onto one foot. And then this time we're going to be folding our knee in towards our chest to start with. I really like keeping this top arm long. It seems to help with the stability, but you don't have to. Your hand could come to your breastbone at any point. So, and then from here, what's it like to let this knee come out to the side a bit? Keeping the body facing forwards. And then what's it like to catch that foot and let the knee drop? And at this point, you might like to bring your hand onto your breastbone. Settle here. Yeah, so obviously when we're doing all these movements in a balance, there's much more possibility for falling over. So that's fine. Just, yeah. Not to worry. Lovely. Come down. We will take that a bit further in a moment, that stopping off point. But let's do that. Let's go to that point on the other side. So come back down. Both feet on the floor for a moment. Close your eyes. Feel yourself. So Tadasana, mountain pose, this sense of enduring stability. And then start to reach up with the other arm. Start to shift your weight into the other foot. Remember that we're folding the knee in towards us rather than dropping the knee down to start with. How does this feel? Can that raised arm help you to stay long? What's it like to let the knee come out to the side when you're ready? And then what's it like to catch the foot and let the knee drop? And at this point, your hand could come to your breastbone. Good. Let the knee drop. Can we settle? Good. Good, good, good. Lovely. Yes. And do come down and have a little shake out. And let's come into a forward bend, and then we'll go a little bit further with these. So feet hip width apart and parallel, looking down at the floor, letting yourself roll down. In the forward bend again, just really see, does bending the knees help? Does bending the knees more help? What feels good in this forward bend right now? Yes, Otto. Otto's just come forwards to say hello. Good. Have another breath or two in that forward bend. And then sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. And have a little shake out. So we're going to do a slightly different version of this. Let me show you, because we're going to go from here. And it's a slightly different version than we usually do. So I want you to see, and this one's not that easy. I just want you to see from here, what's it like to start to let the knee go back and your body tips forward. So you're not taking your foot back yet. I'm sure that's, yeah. So you're just trying to stay, I'm not sure how well I was managing to stay in a straight line from the knee through to the crown of your head. So from this position that we ended up in last time, we're going to start to let the knee tip back. And as the knee tips back, can we let our body tip forwards in response? And it's not particularly easy, I find. Yeah. So the challenge is to really let the knee tip back, I think. And it's interesting to see what restricts that. Good. So your starting point is your hand on your breastbone, and you're catching the top of your foot. You could, Rosie, be going through the whole knee to the chest, knee out to the side, then catching the top of the foot. Or you could just be starting there, and it's just, yeah, that tipping forwards in that position, and it may not feel that you can go particularly far. Good. And I'm just having a look at you, so I'm interested to see this one. That's it. Yeah. Okay, try that on both sides, because then we're going to take this somewhere else, because that to me always feels a little bit constrained. So then I thought, how could we make it feel more free? Have we done that on both sides? No, side two when you're ready, if you haven't done side two. So we've got the, yeah, caught the foot, and we just let that knee move back behind us, and our body comes forwards in response. Good. And then come up and have a little shake out, because this is where it gets a bit more experimental again, because I was obviously having fun last night. So from here, where could we go to? So the same starting point of tipping forwards here. And then I thought, okay, I could reach my arm and leg back, and I could reach the other arm forwards. I could, from there, carry on going down to here. These are just all possibilities. So I'm not necessarily saying you want to do any of these, but from this place where you're tipping forwards, what would then make it feel more free? So there's sort of reaching forwards and back with the arm and leg, and some of you I've seen were wanting to sort of go towards going down. So yes, just having a little bit of an experiment of from that place where perhaps we feel a little bit constrained. So this place where we're starting to tip forwards, the knees moving back, the body's tilting forwards, what could we then do if we were to release the arms and the legs? Where could they go to? Yes, very nice. And it's quite nice, this one, I think, where you're, it's not necessarily open, I know, where you're reaching your arms. So this top arm can be reaching back. Legs reaching back, the arms reaching back, the other arms reaching forwards. And yes, and that might then bring you on into your half moon pose, where the bottom arm comes then down to the ground. Lovely. Very nice. Good. Yes, and super. Very nice. Yes, that's lovely. Yeah. And I think in these, it's really interesting to observe how it feels inside of yourself. So it's how it feels in your body, but then there's that sense of how does it feel, I don't know, in terms of your happiness, your sense of joy, that when you release your arm and leg, or if you let yourself tip forwards, it might feel a little bit uncertain, but it might also feel a bit more joyful, a bit more expansive. Good. That's very nice. Yes, Mel, a block to go under your fingertips is a good idea if you have it there. Lovely. Yeah. And that's nice. We don't need to necessarily think about going, that's it, lovely. You could really reach back with your top hand, Francis. That's it. Oh, no, I'll make you fall over now. Oh, your shoulder. Okay, it's the shoulder for the challenge, yeah. Very nice. Good. Good. Yeah. Wonderful. Very nice to see. That's it, Siobhan. Use those beautiful long arms. Fabulous. So from there, as some of you are doing, yes, I can see Marie, hands on the back, we need to do a bit of a forward bend. So a couple of options. I thought it might be quite nice to do a wide forward bend. And then we'll do a sort of hip width apart forward bend into squat. But I think after all these things, it might be quite nice to try going forwards with your legs wide. You could be holding your elbows, you could be taking your hands onto your ankles. You could be resting the backs of your hands on the floor with your fingertips pointing behind you. Really sink your heels into the floor in this one. So the legs, yeah, the legs are quite active in this to enable your spine to release forwards. Beautiful. And let the head go so the back of the neck can release. Yes, exactly, Rosie. So you could be moving a little bit in this. If you like the one, my knees can be a bit grumbly sometimes in this. If you like bending one knee, bending the other, you might want your fingertips on the floor for this, shifting your weight from side to side. I was actually thinking my knees are quite happy in this today. So that's good. And if you've done a bit of shifting from side to side, you also might then want to just sit, stop in the center, sink into your heels, release forwards again. You can have a few more breaths in your wide forward bend if you like. Whenever you've had enough, you can roll up into standing. We'll just have a moment in standing before we come down through a feet hip width apart forward bend. So Uttanasana, I haven't used that term for a very long time. That's what we call it. So yes, one last time, coming into standing, looking at your feet. Closing your eyes, maybe a couple of big sighing breaths. Maybe a little bit of swaying from side to side. Letting your arms hang. letting your shoulders drop. So shifting your weight from side to side and then settling in standing. Settling in the center. How does it feel? I was saying to my therapist on Friday, something was a process. I said, I like being in standing, which was slightly bemused. But I think in yoga, we all know that this arriving fully in ourselves, in our bodies, in standing, in any pose takes time. Just maybe 2 cycles of breath in standing, just trying to feel the breath move through you, feeling yourself in standing. And then from standing, we're going to roll forwards into a forward bend, and we're going to come down through a squat. So if you need anything under your heels, then do have that to hand. So it means you can stay in your squat. So one last time, rolling into your forward bend, seeing how that feels, letting the head be heavy, and then starting to bend your knees. Letting yourself drop down towards your squat. It's fine if your heels come up, if you prefer it like that. But it's nice to be in this place where we can let the pelvis hang off the bottom of the spine and let our lower back release. From our squat, we're going to come and sit down into cobbler pose. And I think because there's not a huge number of us, I might unmute people, but then if it gets noisy, if it's noisy at your end, mute yourselves again. I'll try not to mute myself. So it's quite nice. We're going to do a few things around sort of sitting and pigeon pose, and it's just quite nice to feel it. Looking at each other. So come into cobbler pose. You could lean back on your hands to start with. And then we could, if it's comfortable, we could hold on to our feet. We could do a little bit of rocking side to side. That's where we can say if we've got some cushioning on our bottoms, it's helpful. It feels more comfortable. And then let's do the one where we let the legs settle down, and it's a bit more that we lean side to side, and we can have the arm in. So this becomes the side length movement. So we're leaning onto one hand. Okay, could be here all day, couldn't we? But we will be moving on. We're going to move into, surprise, surprise, a pinwheel on one side. So let one knee come on top of the other knee. Let your top leg slide back. Now, I probably should have been saying lefts and rights at this time, but we'll just keep without them. A little bit of circling. So when we're in pinwheel, as you know, our pelvis is not completely balanced on the floor. This side is going to be a bit higher up. So it means that we're actually in a bit of a side bend in pinwheel. This side of our body is a bit shorter. This side of our body is a bit longer. And then when we turn to come into our forward bend, that continues to be the case. So one side of the body, the side that we've folded over that leg, that side of the body probably feels a bit longer. So have a couple of breaths here. So as much as this is quite similar to child pose, it's actually got its differences too. Have a couple more breaths here. And then walk your hands back in towards you. We're into sitting, and I did this with some of you last week, where we give ourselves a hug. And we try and have our hands on the shoulder, you know, the ball of the shoulder joint, and we let our head fall forwards. And we do a bit of circling like this. So this one, I was just finding last week, I had a lot of tension in my neck and shoulders, and this one was really helpful. And I rather liked it. So the head falling forwards, we feel really wide across the back of the shoulder. And then from here, I wanted you to see, how does it feel to fold forwards in pinwheel, where rather than folding over this leg, you're folding down in between both legs. So this might make it a bit harder to fold forwards. It might, I suppose, yes, exaggerate that side bending feeling. So just see, it might be that you can't go so far forwards. It might be for someone it's actually easier, but I'm always interested in that. So folding forwards, seeing how it feels here. Might feel a bit more challenging in the back leg. Have another couple of breaths there. Walking back in when you're ready. And then from here, we're going to be coming on into pigeons. I'm just going to shuffle back a little bit. So we're going to let this knee slide back a bit. Your Wednesday pigeon, Sharon.
I'm enjoying it now.
Lengthening out the back leg. And yeah, just seeing how it feels. So if it's comfortable, let your pelvis roll around. Yeah, so the back of the pelvis is level. You can bring your hand there to feel. And then just to start with, I'm going to give you a variation in a moment. Just to start with, decide what would be the best place for you to start in. Is it best to be on your forearms and your elbows? Which I've always thought, yes, this is the only way to start, but it might not be the best for you today. So you could be here, you could go lower, or you could be more on your hands. You have got these options in the pigeon, and there's not always one right one. So somewhere where you can have a few breaths in pigeon. You can think about, you can feel your pelvis settling. You obviously feel that quite strong stretch through the sort of buttock, the hip joint of the front leg. Now, depending how comfortable you are in pigeon, I've been playing, I've done this with some of you before, this little, I suppose, a little rotation in pigeon where we're on our hands, but we have the one hand stays in the center, and then it's just this going from side to side. We keep one hand on the floor in the center, we just turn and take the other arm behind us. So this may or may not be something that you like. So if you do this and you just think, oh, if this is making it all feel very effortful, then don't do it. If it's helping your pelvis to settle, your hand could be quite far forward, then do it. From here, again, if you feel that you wanted to go back to anywhere in pigeon, you can do. If you haven't come to here, sometimes it's quite nice to finish off down low in pigeon. But equally, if you've had enough time in pigeon, from pigeon, we're going to be rolling out onto that front leg hip, and we're going to be rolling and just bringing our legs long and wide for a moment. And after side 2 of pigeon, we might stay here a little bit longer, because I know some of you are rather fond of this one. Yes, Mel, I'm surprised you're not already there in this one. So some of you I know are quite keen on it. Not everyone. Yeah. So if you're a bit less keen, if you're less keen on this, really lean back onto your arms. If you're very happy in this, it's that sort of up here, but it's what we are really thinking about here is the legs letting go and settling down. Yeah, we just want the legs to quieten. That might take a very long time. So we'll stay here a little bit longer after we've done side 2, but from here, come back into cobbler pose. Do you see how cobbler pose feels now? So, yeah. So, oh, yes, suddenly that might feel a little bit easier. And then from cobbler pose, we will move over into the second side of pinwheel. So you can lean over. Quite good having no lefts and rights. Those ones at the beginning of class were very, very taxing for me. A little bit of that. So in all of these sitting things, it's about how can we settle the legs and the pelvis on the floor, which is why pinwheel is so helpful, I think, because we can do this circling here. Perhaps it helps us with the other sitting things. And then as we do, turning towards the knee that's going out to the side, folding forwards over that leg. Chance for the lower back to lengthen out, a chance to settle down, feel the ground beneath us. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. So in all of these things, it's up to you. Whatever feels helpful, you can always stay there longer. So if you want to stay a bit longer in that pinwheel forward bend, you can. The next thing we were doing was coming up, if you remember, giving yourself a hug, bringing your hands onto the sort of ball of the shoulder joint and letting your head hang forwards. So again, this one I was finding really helpful last week when I had this tight neck and shoulders. So if that's the case for you today, this might be fun. Stay with that if you like. And then remember the next thing, which I'm not sure anyone's desperate to do, is where we come into that forward bend, but we fold forwards between the knees, so over the shin. And we'll see how that feels. It's really interesting to notice, where do we feel this in our body? Where do we feel tight? Where do we feel things lengthening out, stretching, releasing, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave. And from there, we walk the hands in towards us. And then we let this knee slide back a bit. So we can move on into pigeon pose on the second side. So again, we've got these options of either being a bit off to the side if this knee needs to be protected, or letting the pelvis roll round. Good to feel your pelvis. Is your pelvis level? Bring your hand onto the back of the pelvis. And then where do you want to be in terms of being on your hands, your elbows, or bringing your forehead down? These possibilities, they may not all be possible for you. You choose perhaps to start with what feels most comfortable, what feels most helpful. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath in. And then, yes, so we did on side one, if you liked that, if you wanted to explore it on this side, this little twist. So whichever hand I have on the floor in front, I have it in the centre. I just find that quite helpful and focusing, that this hand in front comes to the centre. I think it gives maybe better support for the spine. Back. I mean, depending in this one, if you were feeling, you know, that you wanted to, you could bend the back knee. You could be touching your back foot. That's, you know, really depends how you're feeling today. So, again, if that just starts to make it feel like a huge effort, then it might not be what you want to do right now. I know there is a time and place for effort, but if you wanted to do that. And then again, possibly before we come out of pigeon, if you haven't visited folding forwards, bringing your forehead down, that might be quite a nice way to finish. And also quite nice after the twists or catching the foot. We're doing that. stay pigeon longer if you like, but if you're someone who's keen to have a little bit longer in your wide forward bend, you could do, well, I say wide sitting, it might not even be a forward bend for many of us. So come into it. So we are in a moment going to do a little bit of sitting and breathing, not in this position, but we're sitting and breathing with a mudra. But let's, have a few more breaths here. So again, it might be for you that you need to, the best place to be is leaning back on your hands. If we're thinking about the legs becoming quiet, some of you may be able to very comfortably bring your hands forwards and keep the legs quiet. And also we want to feel what's going on with the pelvis. If we are bringing the hands forwards, it's because the pelvis has that possibility of tilting forwards. Trying to leave the legs quiet, leave the legs behind. So just as we have another few breaths in this one, you could be starting to think about how you're going to sit. You probably know how you're going to sit to be comfortable. Yes, I was just thinking in this one, I always liked to do a bit of sort of swaying or rocking or, I mean, I suppose like I was saying earlier in those other things, it could be that your focus is moving. It could be that you move with your breath, or it could be that you just really focus on your breathing. And again, all of these things are valid. So yes, maybe I was just thinking it's quite nice to have some time here, but all of us. So let's from here, Marie, I think the back against the sofa is a very good idea. Let's from here make our way into a comfortable sitting position. So we've got a bit of time to do some sitting and breathing. Not that long, it's going to be maybe 5 minutes or so, thereabouts, slightly longer. So I will mute everyone at this point. So you might want to sit on a cushion, that's what I've just grabbed. You might want to have your back against a sofa or a wall. You could be sitting cross-legged, you could be sitting and kneeling. Let's mute everyone. And then once we're settled, I'll just talk you through the 3 things we're going to do, and then we'll do them. So the first thing we're going to do in a moment is bring our hands onto our low ribs. Feel the breath there. Then we're going to do this mudra, Hakini mudra, which for me always reminds me of my rib cage. And we're going to do it first of all, moving the hands with the breath. Breathing in, breathing out. And then we're just going to stay here with it. Okay. Quietly. So let's just start though, settling with the hands on the thighs, and then we'll bring the hands onto the ribs. So again, it might be a little bit of swaying, circling. Might be a little bit of breathing in, bringing the shoulders up, exhaling, dropping the shoulders. I always slightly get nervous about bringing my shoulders up, so I think I'm going to make them more tense. Dropping the shoulders. Just settling. Just maybe before we bring our hands onto our ribs, just have a moment of feeling the weight of your legs and pelvis on the floor. Feeling the movement of the breath within you, wherever you feel it right now. And then we'll bring our hands into that position where we have our fingers coming round towards the front and our thumb going round towards the back of our low ribs. And it's probably better in this to let the elbows come slightly forwards rather than back. Because that keeps the ribs a bit quieter. And then let's see how it feels to have a few cycles of breath here. So you could close your eyes if you like. See if you can feel this expansion with the in-breath and narrowing with the out breath around the middle of yourself. And it might be to feel these ribs moving with the breath, that our breathing does become a bit slower and a bit deeper. So as the breath comes into us, we let the breath travel all the way down to the bottom of the lungs so those low ribs can widen. And as the breath leaves us, we let those ribs narrow back around us again. Let's have 2 more cycles of breath here, feeling the widening of the inhalation, narrowing of the exhalation. And let your hands come to rest on your thighs. For a moment, let your shoulders drop. And then bring your hands in front of you into Hakini Mudra, touching the pads of the fingers and the thumbs. And then to start with, we're going to move the hands as we breathe. So as the breath leaves us, we bring the palms together. As the breath comes in, we bring the palms away and create this dome between our hands. So our hands, in moving with the breath, are echoing the movement of the rib cage as we breathe. It's quite nice to do it with your eyes closed if that feels okay. Exhaling, the palms come together. Breathing in, the palms move away. We create that domed shape. And then the next time you breathe in, keep your hands in that domed shape. Just let the hands settle in front of you. Now your focus is on the feeling of the contact of all of those fingers and thumbs. And then trying to allow the rest of yourself to settle and soften around that point, those points of contact. So the shoulders softening, the weight settling down through your pelvis and legs. Feeling the breath flowing in, feeling the breath leaving you. So let's have 2 more cycles of breath here, unless your arms are getting tired. And rest them down. And let your hands come to rest on your thighs, palms down. Let your shoulders drop. And then let yourself fold forwards and bring your hands onto the floor. You let your head fall forwards too. And we're going to lie down. So finally, we're going to do just a couple of very simple movements, lying down and then lying quietly. So settle yourselves down. It's very humid today, but if you need a blanket. So, yes, when you arrive on your back, maybe some big exhalations. Maybe a little bit of letting your head roll from side to side on the floor. That's it, easing the neck. And as the head rolls, let the back of the shoulders settle down. Find a comfortable place to settle the back of your head on the floor. Your arms resting, so it could either be hands on the floor or hands on your belly. Heavy elbows. And I think it might be nice just if you've lengthened your legs out and you don't want to move, that's fine. But if you'd like to do a bit of having your knees bent, tilting your knees to the right and to the left. So Sally, keep your knees bent. No, if you want to lengthen your legs out, that's fine. But if you'd like to do a little bit of tilting your knees from side to side to finish, that might be quite nice. So letting the knees, if you like, letting the knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then eventually coming to settle down in the center. You can keep your knees bent, you can lengthen your legs out. And just finishing where we started with the feeling of our body resting on the ground. And the feeling of the movement of the breath through our body. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Allowing yourself to settle, to rest, to be. Thank you, everyone. I'm just going to unmute you or unmute yourselves if you like.